Welcome to today's DNA. We will be discussing 5 topics. First 4 topics are related to the prelims and 5th topic is related to the mains. First topic it is on the NATGRID, second topic is DGCA, third topic on the 20th UNESCO ICH session that is going to be conducted in Delhi. Fourth topic is on the Indian Statistical Institution Bill 2025 and fifth topic is on the hate speech. So first topic is on the National Intelligence Grid. So what is the context of it? So what happened recently, the Director Generals and IG's conference was conducted in Raipur, Chhattisgarh. It was basically headed by the Prime Minister. Prime Minister gave the valedictory session of it, and in which the MHA requested all the state police and other enforcement agencies to use NATGRIDs which is not being used by the related security agencies or the state police. Accordingly, it became quite important and it will lie into the GS paper 3, that is the security aspect of the UPSC syllabus. Now let us try to explore more about the news, what happened, what is the NATGRID and what is the basically controversy around the NATGRID. So you might be knowing that 26/11 occurred during this month only, few years back, 2009. So what happened after the attack of the 26/11, it was realized that the security agencies are not working in sync with each other. There was information available to one security agency which was not able to process the information with the other security agency. You might have seen the movie Dhurandhar as well. Recently it was released. I believe the name is correct, Dhurandhar only, and in which you might have seen the basically voice transcript of one of the alleged perpetrator of this entire terrorist attack. So accordingly, the need to integrate the different security agencies, the data and to process it in real time was realized, and the concept of the NATGRID was conceptualized by the then finance minister Mr. P. Chidambaram ji in 2009 only, right, 2009 only. However, it was not conceptualized during his regime, and later on it was basically conceptualized during the Modi government that we call after 2014. It was conceptualized. That is the background. So let us try to understand more about it. What is it and all about? So basically, NATGRID is a government IT platform, that is the information technology platform in which information are stored in a very synchronized manner at one place. That connects multiple public and commercial databases, so that the approved intelligence agencies and law enforcement agencies can quickly access and analyze information for the counter terrorism and national security aspect. And I already have said that it was basically conceptualized during the 26/11 Mumbai attack, the infamous one, in which the agencies were working in silos. They were not integrated in a well coordinated manner. That is the issue. And basically it was designed as a master database to access grid which links existing database, for example immigration, banking, basically if you fly, whatever transaction you do on the basically using your net banking or the Bheem UPI or any such kind of the UPI, how many telephone connections you have, what type of the comments you do on the social media, all these informations are gathered at one place which can be accessed by the security agencies if there is a need. That is the basically entire basically framework works upon, and it works upon the MHA. Obviously it is the basically MHA backed institution which aims to provide pattern based real time analysis. Very important that it provide the real time analysis to detect and track terrorist or organized crime networks. Just to add on that, in western country such kind of the network already exists, and you might have seen in the sci-fi movies as well that the security agencies are able to gather the real time intelligence, and that is the Indian version of that sci-fi kind of the movie, that is we call NATGRID. And it conceived in 2009 but approved in 2014 after 26/11 with initial sanction cost of 1000 to 2,800 crore rupees, which is decently fair enough, but it came into the operation only 2022, nearly after the 10 year of the concept it came into the operation. So generally it happens that there is a time lag between the policy framing and policy implementation. That time lag was also observed during the formulation of the NATGRID, which is very usual, given the fact that law enforcement is basically concurrent list, wherein even state agencies have to have a very good stay in it. And you know that how state police works, at times they are very quick, at times they are quite lethargic in terms of the reporting the FIR, filing the FIR and doing the investigation and all. That is why there was a time lag between it. Now, what are the key issues why it is becoming controversial? So, we will try to explore at least 5 key issues which is basically hampering the functioning of the NATGRID and what are the controversy around it. So, first is the data integration. So, basically NATGRID attempts unprecedented integration of public and private data. For example, we have already discussed banking, travel, history, call log, etc. all, right, and which provides in a very common platform. Second is the speed and quality of intelligence. The core promise is to dramatically cut the time required to basically piece together scattered data. Whenever we do the investigation, we have this scattered data about a person. For example, in recently occurred Delhi blast, unfortunate incident of Delhi blast. So, we have a prime suspect of this blast. However, if the data is scattered about his degree, about the whereabouts, about his information, whatever he was sharing with other people who are connected with that nexus, and otherwise if it is scattered, it is very hard for investigate agencies to work upon on these things. If it is in a one single platform, it is very easier, and that is the purpose solved by the NATGRID. What is next? So, basically the issue lies with the federalism and access to the state police. So, we know that police is a state subject. If you are selected, you might have given, if you have selected and if you are opting for the Indian police services, you will be the central government employee, but you will be working for the state government. That is the reason that policing is a state subject, and NATGRID is primarily designed for the central agencies, यानी कि union government की agencies, CBI, ED, DRA, Department of Revenue Intelligence, etc. right. And the extent and mode of state police access remains a persistent design and political issue. State police at times they accuse that they have limited access to data, and even the central agency are generally shy sharing the data with the state police. However, as per the recent information available to me, even the superintendent level of police officer can access the have the access of NATGRID, which is very welcoming step, right, because police captain or the that we call superintendent of police, or that we call ACP, is basically head of a state, basically head of a district police. If they have the data, they can use the data for the better criminal administration. Now, there are question of privacy, civil liberty and oversight, because NATGRID is exempt from the RTI in a notification by the government of India. The whatever NATGRID is doing are basically immune from the Right to Information Act. Hence, it has limited explicit statutory safeguard and operates in a surveillance ecosystem where independent oversight is widely regarded as a weak, which is very matter of the concern, because a rogue police officer or if the data is leaked, then it can create a lot of mayhem in the basically among the common public like me and you. Next is the legal architect and data protection context. NATGRID operates against the backdrop of Supreme Court's Puttaswamy privacy judgment and the Digital Personal Protection Act that we call DPA, right, with ongoing debate about legality, proportionality and necessity test. Hence, it is a matter of the concern as well, hence is a matter of the debate as well, and whenever any topic become controversial, whenever there is a controversy behind any topic, it is a favorite topic of the UPSC. That is why we are discussing this topic in detail. Now, what are the few distinct very unique feature related to the NATGRIDs? Let us try to understand. So, basically NATGRID have their own system that we call NatStar. What we call it? NatStar, which connects in-house tech development. So, as per the Ministry of Home Affairs, NATGRID develops on NatStar connectors in-house to interface with data provider and user agency. For example, data provider can be banks, data provider can be Airtel or the Jio, data provider can be the Airport Authority of India, data provider can be UPI. So, the data from the such kind of the data basically providers are used by the user agency, for example, DRI, for example, CBI, NII, etc., indicating an indigenous middleware layer rather than pure off the shelf integration, which is very unique point related to the NATGRID. Second is there is a formal MAU with the NCRB, that is the National Crime Record Bureau, जिसका डेटा हम लोग पढ़ते भी हैं, रेफर भी करते हैं, for FIR and stolen vehicle data. Whatever information, first information report is basically lost, or if there is a vehicle that is basically lost or stolen, the data is integrated with the NATGRID as well. And there is a right to information exemption. We have already seen that it is immune from the RTI via a 2011 gazette, which is also a very unique point of it. Then they can explicitly use the AI and big data analytics for 360 profiling. For example, academic analysis note that NATGRID is designed to use AI and big data tools for pattern recognition and potentially 360 surveillance of individual going beyond simple database required. This is the era of AI. Hence, the data is being basically analyzed by the AI for any pattern kind of the footprint. For example, if a person is involved in anti-India basically activities and there is a pattern behind it, so they detect it and try to prevent it as well. It is very unique, very novel and very special feature of NATGRID. Also, there is a growing linkage of larger digital surveillance stack. For example, CMS is there, Data Protection Act is there, and the scholarly and policy work increasingly realize that NATGRID is not in isolation, but is a part of broader architect including central monitoring system that we call CMS, very important. It is a part of an umbrella basically monitoring system that we call CMS, Big Brother is watching, and social media monitoring cell and data protection exemption, particularly after the DPA Data Protection Act के बाद इसको exemption में मिल गया, which is very unique point related to the NATGRID, because national security prevails over any other thing. National security is a national security which prevails over anything, and it should be the case. It is my point of view. You can have the different point of view on it as well. Anyways, now these are the factors we have already discussed. Now, what are the major challenges with the data points? Let us try to understand at least 5 challenges so that you can use it either in the prelims examination or the mains examination on the case to case basis. First challenge is incomplete and uneven data basically integration. So, as per the MHA's 2022-23 annual report, NATGRID has connected 11 user agencies and 10 data provider, and basically civil infrastructure is completed in New Delhi and Bangalore. CCTNS itself covers more than 14,000 police station where FIRs are to be mandatory uploaded. NATGRID's MOU gives it access to the database, but quality and timelines of police data entry vary widely across the state. Since policing is a state subject, few state police have different guideline while filing the FIR, few police have different guideline. Hence, there is a data unevenability in the NATGRID system. However, we have the already at least 10 user agencies and 10 data providers which are syncing into each other, plus 14,000 police stations are working in sync with each other, which is very good kind of the basically data that we have with us. Only we will have to use it for the better purposes. Now, what is the root cause of its and impact? So, legacy system were built separately by different ministries and regulators with distinct data standards, governance structure and level of digitalization. NATGRID must harmonize this patchwork ex post, which is very important because again the same simple thing, we lack a unified kind of the interface. State level underreporting and delays digitalization of CCTN is also a matter of the concern, because at times you will see the crime in Delhi is quite high. Why? Because there is a basically larger chance that FIRs are basically filed on a very proactive manner in Delhi rather than a state like other state in which you will see a less crime data. Why? Because police are reluctant to file the data, that is the reason, and that is why there will be basically somehow underreporting of the cases, which is a matter of the concern. Also, what is the solution to it? Government has pushed for nationwide rollout and installation of CCTNS and allied system, and NATGRID's in-house NSTAR connectors are meant to bridge heterogeneous database. However, public reports do not yet show uniform nationwide integration of all envisaged 21 plus providers of the database. So, there is the issue, but there is a solution to it as well. Now, what is the challenge number 2 to this NATGRID? So, basically there is a weak formal oversight and transparency safeguard. So, since we already know that this is exempted from the RTI, right. If it is exempted from the RTI, we will not be able to know how the system works. Also, there are chances of a person who is have the access of the database can go rogue, or there is a chances of the leakage of the data from the system architect as well, right, which can basically somehow hamper the the overall functioning of such a beautiful system. And marginalized group, political dissent and civil society actors are disproportionately vulnerable to opaque surveillance system, given to the low bargaining power, limited access to legal remedies and potential chilling effect on the free speech and association. That is a basically major point of the contention behind the NATGRID. And what is the solution to it? But multiple legal and policy commentaries post Puthuswamy call for a dedicated surveillance law, which is a parliamentary having the parliamentary oversight. Judicial independent authorization of the interpretation and the periodic audits are needed, and civil society group jaise SFLC.in explicitly demand independent oversight authorities and stronger transparency norm for the NATGRID type project. So, there is a problem, but there is a solution to it as well. Now, what is the challenge number 3? That is the privacy, proportionality and constitutional compliance. So, we know that right to privacy was made basically a fundamental right under the in the Puthuswamy case, which is very famous one decided in 2017, in which privacy is a fundamental right was basically recognized under the several provision of the Constitution of India. And in 2022, constitutional laws analysis argue that NATGRID's capacity for a 360 surveillance and particularly when combined with other system raises serious proportionality concern vis-a-vis the Aadhaar judgment, which is restricted mandatory data linkages. Hence, ordinary citizens whose data is collected on routine basis, or civil society people whose data is basically collected on the time to time basis, can be profiled for the surveillance, which is also a matter of the concerns. But we have the Digital Data Protection Act, which was enacted in 2023, and we have already explicit proportionality test and sunset clauses for the enabling framework of the NATGRID like system. Hence, we can rely upon these kind of system for our privacy and other thing. Next is the operational effectiveness and the measurable impact on the terrorism. So, the operational details of the entire system is classified, but if basically people can become the rogue and can have the trade off for betterment for their own benefit, it can impact the overall effectiveness of this system, which we will have to work upon obviously. And finally, is the challenge number 5, that is weak cyber security, data leakage and vendor dependence. So, we know that even in the government offices, in the multiple government offices, the people use basically passwords which is very weak in nature. It is very prevalent in the government offices, and if with that attitude they are having the access to the critical data like NATGRID data, in which most of the information which we share via online medium or otherwise can be accessed by basically a party which is interested in something else. It can impact the overall functioning of NATGRID. That is why we need to work upon it at large. And based on all this information, let us try to solve the question which is displayed on the screen. Our second news is on the DGCA. So, you might be knowing that several Indigo flights has been cancelled over the past week, because DGCA issued certain notices which Indigo was not able to comply with. Accordingly, they started cancelling the flights, creating a large scale chaos in the airports of India. You might have seen the various news of basically passengers stranded and they are suffering a lot. Accordingly, we will discuss the role of the DGCA and what went wrong with the recent issue. So, basically what is the relevance of it? It will lie into the GS paper 2. Now, let us try to understand what is the DGCA. So, DGCA stands for the Directorate General of Civil Aviation in India, which is a primarily regulatory body for the civil aviation. We have the SEBI for the share market, we have the FSSI for the food market. Accordingly, we have the DGCA for the basically civil aviation in India. What is the basically aim of it? To safety, airworthiness standards and enforcement of civil aviation regulation, and this became the center of gravity because they have issued center direction which was very stringent in nature as per the Indigo, and they are not able to comply with it. Accordingly, flight have to be suspended. Now, basically it is a statutory body. Statutory body means it is established via an act of the parliament. Which act it was there? So, act was the Aircraft Amendment Act 2020 में आया था, and it coordinates with the International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO. जैसे DGCA इंडिया में है वैसे इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे there is a ICAO. While handling aircraft registration, जैसे व्हीकल का रजिस्ट्रेशन, आपकी गाड़ी का रजिस्ट्रेशन कौन करता है? तो आपके ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट वाले करते हैं. ऐसे आपका एयरप्लेन का कौन करता है? तो इट इज DGCA. सेकेंड इज द पायलट लाइसेंसिंग. जैसे ड्राइवर का लाइसेंस आपके रिस्पेक्टिव एजेंसीज यहाँ पे देती हैं. पायलट लाइसेंस इज डन बाय द DGCA, which is very costly affair by the way. And accident investigation, air crash investigation. You might have seen the NATGRID basically documentaries on it. So, even in the latest Ahmedabad crash, you might have seen Ahmedabad unfortunate crash in which only one survivor was there. Who did the accident investigation? So, it is the DGCA who is basically responsible to do such kind of the investigation. In simple terms, basically DGCA acts like traffic cop for India's skies. Very important that the traffic cop, but for the India's sky. Now, let us try to understand what went wrong with the recent issues and how we can improve the situation. So, let us try to understand the key issues and few unique facts related to the DGCA. So, first, the pilot shortage is exacerbated by the new flight duty time limitation. So, what happened? So, DGCA introduced a new roster or new rule named flight duty time limitation. In short, we call it FDTL, leading to the mass cancellation of the flights in India. Why it is happening? Because what happens, DGCA found that there is a basically safety lapse in the audit across the airline. It is not restricted to the Indigo, it is with the all 8 airlines that is operating are having this safety lapses. Second, there is a training gap in the pilots and other crews, and simulator issues are also there. Simulator is an instrument using which the pilots can simulate the flight like condition, because if someone flies you, it is very risky affair, because n number of the passengers life hinges upon the one decision of the basically pilot. Hence, there is a very strict norms related to it. This norm was further stricted by whom? DGCA, resulting the companies who are not able to comply with this order have to cancel their flights. Also, there is a over reliance on the dominant carrier like Indigo. As per the report, Indigo carries at least 60% of the India's basically air passengers, and we can say the Indigo is having the monopoly in terms of the domestic operations, which impacted the overall operation of the air flights as well, which is very basically sad, and which created system vulnerabilities, and this vulnerability was somehow, it is being said that is exploited by the Indigo as well, because they know that they are into leading position. That is why there are allegation, I am not saying there are allegation that Indigo deliberately tried to basically cancel the flight, because they knew that they are not able to meet the standards, hence in the protest they have done it. This is the allegation by the several basically people, and this is the view of them only. Now, there are regulatory enforcement challenges during peak season promoting behavior. You might be knowing that this is a peak session, people go for the vacation, you might have gone to Goa during this session, or otherwise people travel this time because schools are generally off there is a winter coming and people go on the vacations. Hence, if during this time if there is any tweaking into the regulatory system, obviously it will have the repercussion, which was shown in the latest basically kind of the delay pertaining and cancellation of the flight pertaining to Indigo. And also there is a question of balancing growth with fatigue management. So, private companies basically like Indigo are growth driven company, and resulting they give less rest to their pilots and the crew member, which was objected by the DGCA, and hence plus the pilot association as well. Hence, there was a delay in it. Now, what are the unique fact related to the DGCA? So, DGCA traces origin to the 1929. 1929 में बनी थी ये, very old institution, issuing India's first pilot license in 1932. Now, do one homework. Who got India's first pilot license? Tell me in the comment box. Also, it oversees 14 regional airworthiness offices across the India and coordinate with flexi use of the airspace with the military. You might have seen there are several airports which is having the dual use. They are used by the military, they are used by the civil people as well. So, they coordinate. Who is the main coordinator? It is the DGCA. Also, DGCA led India's 1990s open sky cargo policy. When we were going liberalize, it is the DGCA who was the helm of the in charge to basically make India's air operations very profitable. And recent flight norms increased weekly pilot rest from 36 to 48 hours, which was basically a major point of the concern, because it said that the pilot should be given rest 48 hours after the every 48 hours. That is very important. 36 से 48 कर दिया, इतने घंटे के लिए they will to give the rest 48 घंटे के लिए, effective November 24. So, it was basically in implementation by the number 24, but its repercussion was shown in the late November. Recently, in the first week of the December, on the 5th December, there is a large scale cancellation of the Indigo flight. So, that we call time lag effect in the policy making. Also, DGCA is functioning under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Hence, you will see there are a lot of basically statement by the Minister of Civil Aviation on the current issues, and they are looking to the issue situation as well. Now, what are the key challenges pertaining to the air operations in India? So, first is the basically there is a resource as well as training gap. What is the resource and training gap? So, there is a severe shortage of the pilots in India, and it was enhanced by the roster disruption, which we have discussed recently. Accordingly, more than 1000 flights has to be cancelled. Second was the safety audit norm violation. At least 263 safety related findings across 8 airlines in the last year was found, with Air India facing 51 labs, including basically unapproved simulator, which is very matter of the concern. If you fly by the flight, you will be amazed to know there are so many labs in this system. That is why civil DGCA took a very stringent basically approach in it. Also, we have already discussed that Indigo holds over 60% of the domestic market, 60%. So, hence they are, we can say that they have the monopoly in the operations. Hence, if they are cancelling basically 1 or 2 flight, it will have the large scale repercussions. Also, there is a fatigue management enforcement. As per the basically new rules, 3600 Indigo cancellations over 35 days occurred post November, which is very important. Also, there is a resource and training gap persisting with a different airline, which is also basically a matter of the concern. Now, what we will do the analysis, and we will do the basically solution to the analysis. First is the pilot shortage and the roster disruption. Because of this mandatory 48 hours resting period, there will be a natural shortage of the pilots. How we can handle with it? So, basically airline don't try to hire sufficient number of pilots. What they do inadequate number of the hiring pertaining to pilots, and they use them from the time to time. So, how we can do it? So, basically we can have the predictability using the machine learning about the availability of the pilots from the time to time. Using this, we can solve such kind of the process until unless the workforce come back to the natural limit. Now, what are the key component of it? we can have the real time tube cracking, we can have the automated basically swaps, and what is the value proposition. So, reduced indigo like melt down by the 30% in similar USA FFA pilot strike. So, it already occurred in the USA, in which using all this data they are able to control the situation. Second is the implementation, we can integrate with the airline FRPs, needed DGCA's API access as well. Second is the safety issue that we can work upon. So, we can use blockchain based audit trial of the safety issues. We can emulate training logs, and what is the key component of it? Simulator certification, NFTs, auto compliance checks, and Air India lapses was cut 40% as per the ESS pilot. How can we implement? We can partner with the DGCA for the standard low cost cloud setup. For the market construction, we can do the dynamic capacity allocation dashboard, in which we can monitor the share, trigger intervention, and threshold alert can be there. We can have the slot relocation, and this was done by the European Union market post dominant carrier fails, which is very important. Who will do the implementation? The DGCA. What we can do for the fatigue management? We can have the wearable fatigue monitor. We can have the like smartwatch, we can have fatigue monitor. If it is basically it sends alerts pre-flight, we can basically ground the pilot. Also AI analytics can be used. You can use the pilot app, and there was in the past 50%, 25% fatigue drop in aviation trial. It was also done, and we can mandate it via certain implementation. For the resource gap, we can do the virtual reality accelerator training simulations, which can be used. We can shorten type rating 2 to the months, and DGC approved module can be used, and it can basically boost the supply of the pilot by the 20%. These are the solution which is given in the display box. You can use it for your answers in the prelims or the mains. Now, based on all this information, let us try to solve the question which is displayed on the screen. Our third news is on the basically 20th UNESCO ICH session. So, what is the context of it? So, as per the PIB, India will be hosting 20th session of the Intergovernmental Committee for the Safeguarding of the Intangible Cultural Heritage from the 8 to 13 December at New Delhi, and it will lie into the GS paper 1, that is the Indian Society, Culture and the Heritage. Now, let us try to understand what is the UNESCO, what is the intangible heritage, and what is the role of India in it. So, basically the venue for this session was chosen as Red Fort, which faced recently the bomb blast as well, that we call Red Fort bomb blast. But Red Fort is basically a symbol of the tangible cultural heritage of India as well as the intangible cultural heritage of India. That is why this place was chosen as a basically session for the UNESCO ICH. Very important to understand what the venue chosen. Now, India has been a party to the 2003 convention for the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage since 2005. So, we have already joined this convention. Name of the convention is Intangible Cultural Heritage Convention, and which came into the 2003, and India became the party of it in 2005. For the prelims, these points are very important. They can ask you question from these kind of the information. Now, let us try to explore more upon the news. So, basically for the safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage, tangible which we can see, for example, Red Fort, Taj Mahal and Qutub Minar. Intangible we are not able to see, for example, if it is related to the Vedic chanting or it is related to the basically Ram Leela. These are considered the intangible cultural heritage. Accordingly, to preserve intangible heritage culture of the world, UNESCO basically came out with one convention that we call Intangible Culture Heritage Convention 2003, which was basically adopted in Paris in 2003 itself, and the Intergovernmental Committee advances the goal of 2003 convention. What is the role of the Intergovernmental Committee? It advances the goal of 2003 convention. And India has already served the UNESCO Intergovernmental Committees for the 3 times, which is unique. This is for the fourth time that will be chairing this body. Also 15 Indian elements have been inscribed on the UNESCO representative list, which is also very unique fact you should be knowing. Now, what is the purpose of this convention? Let us try to understand. First, as per the information given, to safeguard the intangible cultural heritage, obviously to ensure respect for the intangible cultural heritage of the communities, groups and the individual, to raise awareness at the local level, national level, international level, and to provide the global cooperative and assistance. These are the basically goal, which is very broad in nature. You can read it. Now, what is the function of the intergovernmental committees of which we are hosting the summit? Let us try to understand. So, basically intergovernmental committee for safeguarding the intangible cultural heritage advances the objective of 2003 convention and ensures that effective implementation across the member. So, this is basically its function, and accordingly they conduct from the time to time such kind of seminar, or the they do the session in order to create awareness among different stakeholders. Now, what is the basically India's role in it and how we are contributing to this? So, India is a state party to the UNESCO's 2003 convention for safeguarding of the intangible cultural heritage. It can be asked verbatim if it is a part of this culture or not. Yes, until date 15 Indian element has been inscribed in this list, UNESCO's representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of the humanity. And in this year, Chhat Mahaparv, which is basically the main basically we can say the identity of the Bihar, and Diwali, which became a wild celebration across the world, was recommended for the UNESCO's intangible cultural history. Now, what are the various basically India's contribution? So, in 2008 for the first time we have introduced Vedic chanting, Ram Lila and Kutayam in the intangible cultural history, and latest the Garba was included in this list in 2013. This is the timeline, and we have proposed Chhat Mahaparv and Diwali for this list as well. You can use this information if it is asked in the question, and you can see the other aspect of the intangible cultural heritage as well. For example, Buddhist chanting is there, Kumbh Mela is there, yoga is there. So, you can there are multiple such kind of thing, notes is given, you can read about it. Now, let us try to understand what is the UNESCO. So, UNESCO is basically a body which is which function under the United Nations, and it is the one of the body of the United Nations, and full form of the UNESCO lies with the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. It was established in 1944, but it came to the 1946 only, just 1 year before India got the independence. For if you want to remember it, you can remember it using such kind of the information data. Headquarter of it is Paris, and parent body is obviously the United Nations, and it have 194 members in it. Now, tell me in the comment box, UNESCO have 194 member, however it is the United Nation, you have only 193 member. So, एक member ये कौन है extra? Tell me in the comment box. And India is one of the founding member of the UNESCO, which is very unique. Now, what is the major function of UNESCO? Design UNESCO normative instrument, conventions, declaration and recommendation, and they release 2 monitoring reports. For example, Global Education Monitoring Report, they release it, and second is the World Water Development Report. Both these reports are released by whom? None other than UNESCO. This can be asked in your prelims examination, and you can use it. Now, key UNESCO conventions. What are the key UNESCO conventions? Let us try to understand. So, first is the Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in Armed Conflict 1954. For example, if Pakistan is supposed to attack India, and if both the countries are bounded by this convention, then they will not be able to bomb the Taj Mahal, which is again a UNESCO heritage site. I am giving you an example only, it is not going to happen, but just to understand, or vice versa. If we are attacking the Pakistan, we will not touch the, we will always are the moral basically army, but still if we are a signatory of this convention, we will not bomb any cultural heritage sites of that country. Second is the Convention on the Protection of the World Culture and Natural Heritages 1972. Third is the Convention for Safeguarding Intangible Cultural Heritage 2003, under which Kumbh Mela or basically Vedic chanting was given the recognition. And next is the Convention on the Protection and Promotion of Diversity of Culture Expression 2005. Now, what are the famous UNESCO lists? So there is a World Heritage Site which was based on 1972 convention, and India as of now have 42 sites which is cultural, natural and mixed. Now tell me in the basically comment box which is the only mixed site of basically World Heritage Sites which is available in India. It is available in the northeast of India. I am giving you the context, I am giving you a clue. Second is the intangible heritage. India has 15 elements, for example, yoga, Kumbh Mela, Ram Leela, we have already discussed it, and UNESCO's creative city network. It pertains to literature, craft, media, gastronomy, etc. Recently, Lucknow has given basically this into this list. In the past, there are basically different cities which are given in the list of this basically UNESCO creative cities. Tell me in the comment box about every basically heading and the use of basically which Indian cities are given the basically under this recognition. Now there is a memory of world register as well, which is a documentary heritage. So these are the basically famous UNESCO list, you should be knowing, it can be asked in the question as well. Now what is the role of the UNESCO in India, India's role in UNESCO? So India joined it 1946, and New Delhi has a UNESCO category 1 institute, that is Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, and India hosts UNESCO chair in various institutions, and in 2025 India is supposed to host the 20th UNESCO ICH committee session. Hope from the given information you will be able to solve the MCQ which is given on the screen. Our next news is on the Indian Statistical Institute bill, that is ISI bill. ISI of not the Pakistan, it is we call Indian Stats Institute bill. So like UPSC, there is a Indian stats services and it is very lucrative. Those who are in the stats background can fill this form, and accordingly there is an institute that we call ISI, which is very famous one, very well celebrated one. What is the background of it? The news is so government is trying to introduce a bill in which the status of the ISI will be converted from the society to the institute of the national importance like the IITs or the IIM, and it become controversial because of the certain provision that we are supposed to discuss. Now let us try to understand about the background and more about the news. So what is the context? So the draft Indian Stats Institute Bill 2025 proposes to repeal the Indian Statistical Institute Act 1959, transforming ISI, a premier institute founded in 1931 by PC Mohanbalis. Very important, who founded the ISI? PC Mohanbalis. Again I will repeat, it is not of the ISI of the Pakistan that you see in the movies. From a society and the Societies Registration Act as a statutory body corporate akin to the IITs and IIM. अब सोसाइटी से इनको क्या कर रहे हैं? इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ नेशनल इंपॉर्टेंस लाइक IITs and IIM कर देंगे. Now who released? तो basically it was released by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, that we call MOSPI, released the draft in which public invitation was invited, and you might be knowing since basically it came into the picture in 1930. So 2030 will mark 100 years of the ISI, and government accordingly wants to make ISI an institute of national importance, by changing the status of this from the society to the basically a statutory body like IIM and IITs. That is the again backgrounder, and this was given recommendation of the same was given by a committee that we call Maheshkar Committee 2022. In simple terms, the entire functioning of the ISI will shift from the democratically elected 33-member council to an 11-member government nominated body of the government that we call Board of Governance. So there will be downsizing and there will be change of the nature of the institution, and it will lie into the GS paper 2, that is overlapping with the GS syllabus of the UPSC. Now let us try to understand why it become quite controversial and what is the basically solution to it. So why it become quite controversial? Because as per the basically various expert, since now there will be a government appointed body that we call GOB, it will have the interference of the central government. Earlier what used to do, there was a 33-member committee they used to elect the president and the other members of this institution. Now the central government will basically nominate the member. From the election to the nomination, that is why it become quite controversial. First thing is this. Second thing is, generally the payment structure of these kind of the institutions are quite low, which is good to basically student who come from the less privileged economic background. However, since they are not having the self financing with them, resulting they are largely at the loss, they are not able to create revenues basically due to the function, and it is becoming the liability on the government. It is as per the government committee report. Now they want to basically change this paradigm, and they want to introduce certain fee hike, which is also being protested. Second contention is second thing. Also, as per the allegation that after the new mechanism in which government will appoint the members of this governing body, there will be lesser academic influence and there will be more political influence in decision making. This is also one of the key point, so people are basically protesting against it. And finally, they are saying that while introducing this bill, the stakeholders of the ISI were not consulted, hence they are not happy with the proposed amendment into the ISI bill. That is the basically the central issue of it. That is why we are discussing it. Again, it becomes controversial, that is why we are discussing it. It is the basically issue behind it. Now let us try to do the analysis of the each and every issue. First is the loss of institutional autonomy. We have already discussed that. A committee was basically established, named Mashelkar Committee in 2022, which called for the lean governance like Institute of National Importance, in which a 33 member body has been reduced to the 11 member body, which is being again protested. Second is the threat to the free education, we have already discussed this. Third is the centralized directorial control, we have already discussed it. Next is the weakened academic decision making, we have already discussed. And fifth is the inadequate consultation, we have already discussed it. So based on all this information, let us try to solve the question which is displayed on the screen.